All right, welcome back to the War Room, y'all. I'm here with Alec and Karsten once again to talk about some freaking dirt bikes, baby. The playoffs are here. The Supermotocross Playoffs are here. Guys, this has been something we've been waiting for all year to kind of see the second rendition of. Last year, we kind of didn't know what to think about it because it was an experiment, but it turned out to work. It worked really well. We've already talked a lot about the benefits of it. Keeps a lot of the big guys around in the back half of the year. I think a lot of guys like a Cooper Webb and Eli Tomac, et cetera, with the way their seasons played out, we wouldn't be seeing them past September. But now we got them coming back, racing, nationals to get some more points, get ready for this. So for our audience that isn't necessarily familiar with the Supermotocross Playoff, it's a 3-round playoff series with each weekend for both classes having 2 20-minute motos, or for the 250s, it's 2 15-minute motos. With the points doubling every single weekend until you get to the third weekend where it's, basically for all the marbles at that point. And for 450s, the winner gets $1 million purse. And then the 250 winner gets $500K in that purse. And then the money purse goes all the way down through the top 20, I believe. There's different payouts. So a lot on the line. And I can't wait to break it down with these guys. But first, let's talk a little bit of breaking news. So this actually was just announced about 2 hours ago. I mean, Karsten, I don't know what's been going on with our timing of pods recently, but the last 3 have been perfectly timed.
Optimal.
Because we're just here to break news, baby. I mean, another bombshell just dropped. Joey Savacci not racing the SMX playoff with Triumph. This kind of came out of nowhere. No one really saw this coming. What it could possibly be related to would, my guess, be the fact that the Triumph 450 program, which was kind of part of his contract with them, is, hey, I'll do 250s one more year with you guys just to do outdoors, because he's not allowed to race indoors because he's pointed out or whatever because of the old system. And essentially year 2, we go on full-time 450 because that's when their 450 program was supposed to be all the way up and running. So for whatever reason, I've heard all kinds of rumors from Steve Mathis and other insiders saying that that's kind of fallen through and that they are way behind. So potentially he may have wanted to get out of his contract for next year and have that conversation with them. And then, because of the fact is, hey, look, I need to get back to 450s. I need to race Supercross. I can't wait another year. I'm losing more and more potential here. And maybe they just decided to pull the plug early, but you would think they finished out the season. So I'm not really sure where this drama is coming from, but all we know at this point is that Joey Savacci is out for the SMX playoffs. So that's a big 250 name that is out. And that leaves Triumph, who started with a 3-person team with Evan Ferry, Jalek Swall, and Joey Savacci, down just to one guy to represent them in what is being advertised as literally where all the money's on the line. Right. And teams get percentages of those bonuses and everything that they win at the end of the year, the $1 million purse and everything. So just round table here, guys, because this is pretty big here. Two parts to this. One, what do you guys think do you guys agree the main reason could be, hey, the 450 program's kind of fallen through, so he pulled the plug early so he can go negotiate? You think that's the main reason, or do you think something else is going on? And number 2, what does this tell us about the Triumph team right now, just trying to get its wheels off the ground? Are we still, kind of okay, look, their 250 programs kind of, still, I would say, has been pretty good so far, aside from some technical issues going on outdoors. But do we still think Triumph's headed in the right direction going into year 2? Or is the sign of Joey Savacci getting out the door early kind of raising some red flags here? Karsten, I'll go to you first, and then Alec, you follow along.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good look. I think that if he was going to leave and go to race 450s and finish out the season, that would make a lot of sense. And it'd be okay, everything's cool. They're not coming around doing, they're not meeting each other's needs, you could say. But if he's cutting off before the season's over, there's definitely something going on there. I don't know what party is the one doing some, nefarious activities, but clearly
something's going on.
It's clearly somebody, maybe both of them, maybe, I don't know. we'll see.
Yeah.
But it's definitely some red flags if he's not going to finish out the season. Yeah.
Alec,
Well,
what are
I
your
mean,
thoughts,
look,
bud?
it's no lie that Joey Savacci has had a subpar outdoor season on the 250. I mean, he was a 250 guy battling Adam Cianciarulo. I mean, battling guys who had become on, all kinds of guys, Zach Osborne, like a lot of guys who were top of the sport. So for him, it wasn't probably the result he was expecting. So maybe there's some frustration in line. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Joey Savacci might be pointed out for 250 in Supercross.
He is
So
100%.
so without that, it's kind of, I mean, there is a lot of money, like you said. I mean, the team's kind of trying to get its wheels under its forks and under its swing arm. So it's like at the same time, it's tough, and it also does hurt the ego and a little bit of the confidence to have the outdoor run that he had. Had the outdoor run been better, a couple podiums maybe, I think we might see it might be a different story. But I don't know if it was a lack of motivation, or it just wasn't super excited about the team anymore, or I think it's a little too early to speak on it. I think as the news comes out on it, I think we'll be able to formulate more of a story.
Well, Alec, if you were to just take a point blank guess on it right now, given the results we saw in MX, and keep in mind, as you mentioned, he's pointing out a Supercross. So he went with this whole year planning for, I'm doing MX 250s, then SMX, because I'll probably qualify for that, and then next year's 450s, right? So there's a lot of weight on that season, but also there's almost as like more weight on the fact that they promised him a 450 ready for next season, so we can finally get back to the premier stage of Supercross. So which do you think potentially, we'll hear more as we see an official PR come out tomorrow, along with some other insider knowledge. But if you were to just take a guess, do you think it came more from the ups and more so downs of the long awaited from his end, because he had to sit out the whole winter and spring MX 24 season, or do you think it had more to do with the potential, hasn't fully announced yet, but all what we're hearing is the delay of the 450 program? Which would you say that had more weight on this?
I think a little bit of both, probably more so the 450 being delayed. Because look, if it's not going to go in line with when he's ready to get off the 250 and his plan, how he's got it laid out in his head, he might wean off of that. And then I think also that subpar season outdoors kind of played into that also. Now I'm not saying, I mean, look, at Triumph is a 1 year, first year team, almost, I mean, complete year team. So they're still struggling with things, and the bike looked solid outdoors, minus Joey Savacci's bike problems. But Jalek Swoll was on the same bike, and he did good. I mean, better than
multiple
Savacci's,
podiums in the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, like he did good. So I don't know. I think it doesn't fit his 2-year plan, and I understand these guys have to race to make money, but to sit out of the SMX playoffs, that to me just seems kind of crazy. Even if they couldn't agree on anything, he would go get his practice bike or borrow a Cowie from a buddy and see where he places.
No, I 100% agree here. Obviously, there'll be an official PR out tomorrow morning, is what we've been told. But as usual with this sport, it's like we always find out before the official stuff comes out. I mean, it's like the fact that there still isn't an official PR about Jorge Prado moving to Kawasaki and coming to the United States, but we've known about it for over 5 months now.
That was the Sexton from HRC to KTM. We knew about it a year before, and then it wasn't official till a couple months before his Supercross season.
Precisely. And the funniest thing is when the team who he's leaving has to play stupid for 9 months. Like you got Lars for 9 months going, well, we don't know. We just don't know. And everyone knows that he knew. Like the contract was signed in October. He at least knew that he was leaving, to my knowledge. So, anywho, so all right. Well, moving onwards. This is necessarily breaking news, but I think it's a exciting point to bring up, because this was the complete opposite of last year. Guys, I mean, if we look around the field, both 450s and 250s, for the top guys in the class, only one guy's out, and it's in the 250s. It's Daxton Benning. He's got some minor injuries he's getting sorted out, so he will miss the playoffs. But pretty much, not even pretty much, every other major player is coming back for 450s and 250s. Sorry, what?
I was saying that's exactly what you want to see. That's
Exactly.
what playoffs is all about. All the best people coming together and seeing who comes out on top.
Yeah, and like I said, we already touched this many times already, but just think about if this didn't exist, how much we would have gotten robbed of just everyone else just sitting out the back half of the year, right? Because I'm not a player in the championship. Outdoors are brutal, so why hop in halfway through the season anyways? Other than for glitz and glamour, all that stuff. So, I'm super excited to have a lot more players in the 450 class, especially because there was a good amount of variety in the 250s last year. But the 450s really, really had the most amount of guys out. I mean, we had Eli Tomac missing. We had Cooper Webb in dad bod mode, so he might as well have been out of it. Malcolm was out. Multiple guys were out of it. Was Dylan Ferrandis out as well, I believe? I can't remember, but there was multiple, at least 5 to 8 pretty big players to where, it was kind of the Chase, Kenny, and
Jet.
And Jet show. I don't know how I forgot the biggest one that dominated the whole time, but
Yeah.
it was kind of like those three, about Aaron Plessinger 8 seconds behind, and then the rest of the field 30 seconds behind that. And that also kind of describes the whole outdoor season as well, minus Kenny because he only showed up to race one off the couch. But yeah, so I'm just really excited to have that. A lot of guys in both classes that we're about to preview here. So let's go ahead and move into our main segments here, which will be we're going to preview the 450 class first, then we'll go to the 250s, and then we got a nice little segment that we did on our last college football show that we really liked a lot. So we're going to apply that here as well. But first, we're going to go over the full top 20 that are guaranteed in, that don't have to race the LCQ. And then we're going to go over the guys that are signed up to race the LCQ that are in spots, 21 through 30-ish. So without further ado, I'm just going to read the list here. In 450s, at the very top, we have Chase Sexton. And by the way, just a precursor, each of these guys, for those who don't know, they have a set qualifying points to their playoff ranking, right? So if you're first, you get to start with 25 points to your standings before you even race a single race, right? Going all the way down to a single point for being sorry. Let's see, to 2 points for being 20th that you start with. So starting with Sexton at 25 qualifying points, and then from that'll be Chase Sexton. We got Hunter Lawrence, Jason Anderson, Justin Cooper, Jet Lawrence in 5th, mind you, because he lost so many points from being out pretty much the back 2/3 of the motocross season. Aaron Plessinger in 6th, Malcolm Stewart in 7th, Dylan Ferrandis, Justin Barsha, notable return because he's pretty much missed most of outdoors from having both knees kind of messed up. Cooper Webb in 10th, Eli Toback 11th. Christian Craig crawled his way all the way back to 12th just because of the fact that he just kept stacking some top 10s, some top 12s. Even got, I think, a 7th or something like that in the outdoors. So he worked his way back. Ken Roxon in 13th. That's a notable. And now we start getting into the weeds here. Shane McElrath, Frederick Noren, Filthy Phil Nicoletti in 16th. Grant Harlan, Harry Kulas, Marshall Welton, and then Kyle Chisholm rounding out the last guaranteed spot in 20th for the 450.
Dean Wilson.
Sorry, what?
Poor Dean Wilson. You missed it by one.
Well,
Ironman.
Here's the thing with Dean. I'm not going to get too much in the weeds on this, but with Dean, it's like he could have raced more outdoor nationals.
Yeah.
If he didn't want to go to Brazil and all these other places that were paying him to ride, which I respect chasing the bag. If someone's paying you to come ride, go ride. But
yeah, he did that and still almost qualified for the SMX. So that's
and literally bought a bike, put a suspension on it, and then left it at the first national he went to. Like he just sold it because it was apparently like less expensive to just bring it there and sell it and not have to pay to ship it back to wherever he needed to go next. Like he was running the loosest program like in motocross history. Like the dude was living out of a van. Like it was pretty hilarious. Like I need to go watch his vlogs because that dude was basically living out of like a van the whole time. And I don't know who he had mechanicing for him, but it was pretty wild. But yeah, And then, so the reason we talk about guaranteed spots for those that haven't watched an SMX playoff before, if you're in the top 20, all you have to do is go qualify. You're guaranteed to be on the starting gate. Okay. Every single round. There are 22 spots on the gate. So that leaves 2 more. And everyone else that is ranked lower than 20th has to race the LCQ before the main events every single round. So that way, essentially, if you don't qualify for one SMX, the pair of main events, then the next weekend you can still have a shot to make your way in. It's kind of exhausting because for these guys, they're having to race a 5 or 10 minute LCQ every single weekend. But that's just the name of the game. That's why it's so crucial in the top 20. So the guys that will be fighting for that include Dean Wilson, as you mentioned, Justin Hill, Roman. Is it Pape or Pape? I don't know.
I've
Derek
heard it
Kelly.
both ways.
I've heard
Yeah.
Poppy.
Okay, we'll go Poppy.
Pape.
Yeah, who knows?
Poppy.
Derek Kelly, Cullen Park, the boy Colt Nichols, Jeremy Hand, Anthony Rodriguez, Jerry Robin, and Cade Clayson. So we'll kind of get into more of the weeds in a second, but let's start off by just kind of previewing this in our new, buy, sell, steal segment. So if you guys haven't watched our college football preview show, this is something we kind of do to kind of just start with an overall idea of the field. So we're going to go around. Everyone's going to talk about their buy. What is a buy? Hey, it's someone who has high expectations to perform well that we're saying we are buying into. This guy's going to be great. And he looks great, will be great, will continue to be great. A sell is someone that has high expectations, should be great, but we think is probably going to be underperform. Somebody's stock that you would sell. And then steal is somebody that essentially is on nobody's radar that you think will creep their way into being at least notable for their position. So it could be a Colt Nichols sneaking into the main event every single weekend and getting top 10s. It could be, a Justin Cooper winning a moto. Who knows? It could be Malcolm Stewart keeping it on 2 wheels. It's whatever you want to make it. So we'll start with the buys. And Alec, I'll start with you if you want. And then Karsten, you go next, and then I'll finish up, and then we'll go to sells, and then we'll go to steals.
Right on. So we start with 450s?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I am buying Chase. Chase looks amazing. He's really found himself in what we've seen in his 250s still with Geico Honda at the time. But once he gets rolling, he's kind of he's kind of going downhill. So where he's just getting momentum, he's getting better, is building the confidence, and it's just I feel like it's just going to keep growing. So yeah, man, I think that's who I'm going to buy. I'm stoked I'm just a big Chase fan, so I'm stoked to see him win and gain that confidence, especially with a powerhouse like Jet. To really, I don't know. I need to just an antidote for Jet, and
Yes.
I see that in Chase, and I just want good racing. So I think Chase would perform well, like I said, coming off the outdoor season he had. Let's see.
Okay. Karsten, who you got for your buy?
Yeah, well, okay. It's nice that you went first, so now everybody's gonna look like they're copying you. Yeah, I feel like you have to buy Chase. Like he's got all the confidence coming in. He's racing well. The bike is set up well. It's going to be tough to see how they're able to do with bike setup because he was good in Supercross, but he wasn't great by any means. I mean, he wasn't nearly as fast as Jet was, and so I don't know if they'll have setup is going to be interesting with how they manage that, and if they go, I don't know what they're going to do, but
Yeah.
Confidence coming in. He's fast. He's probably still going to be fast.
And he's durable.
Real durable.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy can take a hit, So, yeah, I feel like you got to go with Chase. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and to touch on both of y'all's pick right there, like you want to talk about an advantage right now. I think you've got multiple riders in this class that we'll end up talking about that I think first moto, every single time they were a threat to win, but the main parts that we've seen Sexton just be legendary and separate himself has been that second moto, especially outdoors, right? Now that will be diminished a little bit because you're running 220s. You're not running, 220s plus 3 or 220s plus 2, whatever it is. You're not running 230s plus 2. So that is something to be considered there. But I still think, especially with how technical these tracks are going to be, I still think that's going to give him an edge. And half of that has been, it seems like in those second motos, he finds another gear. He gets even more comfortable than he already is. And I think half his success from the outdoor season, he just looks comfortable, especially I would say rounds, 6 onwards, like he just looked a different level of comfortable, not just in regards to how he physically looked on the bike, but you just watch the decisions he makes. He's wearing a helmet, but you can kind of tell, a rider's expressions in regards to how hurried they're trying to be when they're in certain situations or how hard they're pushing at which points. And I just saw a lot more of Chase letting the race come to him, even if he got a bad start and came out 6th or 5th and Hunter's riding first, and his teammates in second, and he knows he's got to catch those guys. Like, I think the Chase we saw last year was really, really frantic to try to get up there. Even if he wasn't making the spots, you could just tell he was way more over his front wheel, doing everything he could to try to punch through. And it just looked like he was riding like he was so much cooler, more calmer, more collective. And hopefully that's what we see when he gets into playoff round 1. But in regards to my buy, I got to say this just because y'all ain't said it, because Chase kind of, once again, was going to be my buy too, but nobody's buying Jet. Somebody's got to buy Jet in this program, okay? Because the dude's just a freak athlete, and as we saw last year, okay, and all of outdoors, and especially all of SMX as well, he is so light on the bike, and in tracks like these hybrid tracks or outdoors, that plays so much into his hands in being able to maintain so much speed in corners, whether if it's an outdoor style track or when you get into the Supercross section when you've got bowl turns. Man, that plays so much to his advantage, but I think it definitely plays an advantage in the high speed and any kind of motocross areas where you have any kind of turn going on or any kind of obstacles like, sand rollers or something like that. I think any kind of outdoor primary track that you're going to see, maybe like a Texas Motor Speedway, is going to be similar to what we saw with him in Chicagoland last year, to where he can ride a lot more comfortable with a lot less effort. So it's going to put people like Chase or a Tomac in kind of a more, it's going to put them more in a pressure cooker, because especially if he gets the starts that he's been getting on that Honda, it's going to put those guys, in handcuffs a little bit. They're going to have to ride uncomfortable. And that goes for Tomac too. So we'll get into him later, but yeah, you got to buy Jet because he's a crazy athlete. Obviously we're going to be questioning whether or not he's fully ready round 1, or if it takes him a weekend or 2 and does the championship slip away by round 3. But I think with just how crazy the kid's been this whole season, and even how well he rode when he had a really, really bad shoulder after Hangtown. I mean, I definitely think he's still going to be in play for wins and this championship, even if he's not 100% healthy. So I don't want to go on that too longer because everyone knows Jet's great, but it is nice that he's going to enter as a little bit of a wild card instead of the Thanos that he was going into this first round last year. So that will be really, really interesting. Hopefully we get the Chase and Jet battle we're all looking for. So now let's be a little negative, boys. Let's talk about sell. Who we selling? Who's got high expectations that we're like, ain't happening, brother? Alec, we'll start with you.
Well, you talk about the highest expectations for somebody who has had some trials and tribulations recently. Man, it kind of hurts to say it, but I think I'm selling Jet.
Oh, wow.
I think. Look, listen. He's on a new bike.
No, I like it.
He's hurt his thumb, his shoulder. These guys aren't ever honest with us. I mean, most of the time. But he's riding the bike, but he's not talking about, oh, my thumb hurt here. His shoulder was bothering him not early in the motos because he just rips a start and takes off. And then, as the moto goes on, he kind of falls back, but still lands in.
And he said he was able to ride a lot more with his legs in those early motos. And then when his legs gave away and he has to use that shoulder more,
right.
He has problems.
Right. I think he's going to do good. I'm not 100% confident that it's going to be, Jetty from last year. At least for the first round. He might, which might play in his favor too. He might get loose, get a little bit more comfortable. Now racing, he's been off of a few weeks. 7 weeks from racing. So like get back in the groove. The third round's the most important one. But I don't know. He's kind of scaring me a little bit. We haven't seen any time with him off the bike, without getting gate drops since he was racing for Randis and broke his collarbone in Supercross on the 250. So, and that was like Geico Honda. So that was, or his debut season, like that. Yeah. We haven't seen him come back from an injury since then. So, the kid's great. I don't have a doubt that he'll do good. I just sell him because I don't think that he's going to do as good as I think he can. So at least these early rounds, but I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Well,
you gotta be kidding me.
Oh, you're totally wrong. I'm glad you're buying Jet so we can sell them to you, brother. He might get a podium. Okay. I think that he is, 20-minute moto is going to play into his favor for sure. Because he's all bunged up, right? He's not training, he's been laying around, just kind of hanging out, probably hanging by the pool, probably driving around in his cars.
Posing for magazines.
Posing for
what
magazines.
You got to be watching film.
Beers too. He just turned 21.
Oh, dude.
Oh, it's over. It's over. All right.
Last round's in Vegas. Dude, he's going to get the black track table, crush and bruise. He's not even going to show up to the race. He's not even going to show up to the race. He's going to be too hungover.
Oh, but you haven't thought about this. He could pull an MJ and go like just balls to the wall because he needs that $1 million after what he's about to lose at the casino.
No.
You got to think about that external motivation.
Okay, maybe that's possible. But I think, we might get – he's going to do bad. I think he's going to be bad.
All I know is the greatest of all time in the NBA was fueled by a gambling addiction. Okay, that's all I know. Okay, I speak facts.
That's a bold statement. Okay, I've never heard anybody claim that's the reason why MJ was so good. Right?
It's one of.
Yeah,
he would bet on anything.
Yeah, and you know what? He probably would have had that going on whether he had any money or not. It's just thank God he was able to get into the NBA and make so much money that he didn't have to, beg, barter, and steal to be able to fuel such habits, right?
Look, if I was that athletic, I would bet on anything I did as well. Like, the whole story about him, betting with that one employee, the janitor or whatever, on tossing pennies as close to the wall as they can.
Yeah,
I would do the same thing because I think I could do anything. That's what if I was MJ, I'd do the same.
Yeah, 100%.
And if I was Jet Lawrence, I'd be the same way. So I just think
if I was
see some history repeat itself.
If I was Jet Lawrence, I would bet on myself, money line Jet Lawrence, except in the 2024 playoffs. I don't think this is his. I don't think these next 3 races are not his 3 races. I think that by maybe the 3rd race, he's looking at podium. But I think race 1, he's going to come out just groggy. Brother, okay? I'm thinking like we're looking at maybe a top 5, and he's going to maybe be in there at the beginning, but he's going to fade. Second race, he might be a little bit better. 3rd race, we might get a podium out of him. I think that's best case.
So you think he's going to have to race his way into shape, and by the time he does that, it's too late?
Yeah, and like Alec was talking about, he's on this new bike, the 2025, and he hasn't had like motocross rounds to test it out.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he's been riding. Obviously, I don't know how much he's been riding, but like it can't be that much. It's how much everybody else has been riding. So therefore, less good. That's pretty simple. And hey, who knows? Maybe he comes out and wins them all. That could totally happen too. But
yeah, it's one of those things where if for whatever reason he had to race his way into shape, and it comes down to like he needs to throw a Hail Mary on the 3rd round, and he has to win to even put himself into contention. And he's dependent on like a Sexton or, somebody else that's in the hunt to just get a P3 for him to even have a shot with the triple points.
Yeah.
I would believe that. I would also believe him freaking sweeping the thing because he's just that crazy of an athlete.
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's a dice roll.
The way the points are set up, he could totally go like, you know, like just a top 5 first 2 rounds, come out, win the last round, and just the right guys just have a terrible night. You know what I mean? Like let's say it's Hunter and Chase up there at the top, the first 2, last one, both of them like they get tangled up first corner, boom, Jet could win the whole thing in the third one because of the way the points work. So, you know, you never know. But yeah, I think that Jet is more of a sell than the other guys in that category. You got to go. I feel like that's what you got to
go. Here's the thing. I'm buying Jet, but because he's such a wild card, I agree with your take as much as mine because it's just that much of a – you would believe either one with this scenario. I would say my sell in this particular case, and Karsten, apologize in advance. I'm even wearing blue, okay? But it's going to be Eli Tomac, okay? I like what I saw in the last moto, okay, for the outdoors, but I don't think he's got necessarily what it takes right now. I mean, now granted, he won't have to go 30-30, but I don't think with the gaps that we saw from him just being off of AP, much less Chase, I don't think he's going to be a player for this championship in time, especially with the fact that he's starting all the way back in 11th here. So you got guys like Chase that already have got a double-digit point event. It's not going to matter when we get to the time, but we get to round 3, but still every point matters. But you got guys starting with a pretty decent points head start there. And like I said, I feel like it could be a similar deal with Jet, but it will take more. I think more doors have to open for him, and just more things have to go right for him to be able to race his way into shape, for him to be able to contend with a healthy Chase, with a semi-healthy Jet. You know, you've got a potential wild card in Ken Roxon. You've got a potential wild card in some other guys in here. I would say Tomac is the one I'm most worried about being able to race his way into shape. Cooper Webb is another guy you could worry about, but for some reason, I just have a little bit less confidence with Tomac than I do Webb. And the only reason I say that is because the more, like, honestly, I like just to prove this point, I should say my sell should be Webb. So that way he knows that one person is doubting him, which will automatically put that dog in him. And then he will go out there and he's going to win Moto 1. Like, it's just, it is the law of Cooper Webb. If he just needs one doubter and all of a sudden, like, he has the most amount of adrenaline he's ever had in his life in him. So every time we doubt Cooper Webb, he delivers. So that's the only reason I would say I will lean with Tomac being my sell over Webb in this scenario, but they're both in a similar spot. And you can make a fair argument. And I'd be interested to see what your thoughts are on this, Karsten, between these two guys that, well, hey, look, Tomac got a whole extra 2 rounds than Webb, because Webb, he came back and then kind of respraying that thumb, didn't tear it or anything, but just jammed it pretty good. And he said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to go practice or whatever. I don't want to. I need to give this thing some more time. I don't want to risk re-injuring this thing, and I'm just going to sell out for the playoffs. But you can make an argument that Webb's got less 30-minute motos under him, and he may not be as raced into shape. But I just think the dog factor is going to put him over the hump a little bit earlier than Tomac. I mean, what do you think, Karsten? You think that between these two, you would sell Webb more, or would you sell more of Tomac?
I don't know that Webb would qualify for a sell for me, because I don't feel like the expectations are high for him. Like, I don't know. And look, Coop, don't take this the wrong way, brother, but I don't know if anybody's looking at him going, oh, he's a contender for the championship in this.
All right. Well, congratulations. You just made him a contender. Okay. You just doubted him. It's the law. I don't know what to tell you. He's now good in Moto 1. Like, lock it in. Like, congratulations. You just locked him into the third round as being a top 3 guy. Like, it's just going to happen now. It's going to happen.
Which is fine. That's okay too. Okay. I'm fine with that. But it's, come on. You know what I'm saying? You guys can't.
I know what you're saying.
I hear you. I'm selling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, he's like, yeah, you know what I mean? But Tomac, I would agree with that. Like, I think Tomac has the expectation that he could. I don't know, that he just looks kind of stiff right now.
Yeah.
he's got like a stiffness to him that I think he needs a little more time on the bike. He's been off this whole motocross season, like even more so than Jet, and I mean, he's not too old yet, but like he's getting up there. Like Jet's 21, he can go, get banged up and he'll be back out ready to go a lot quicker than Eli. I think Eli's got a little more lead time on needing to get back into race shape. But I mean that last Ironman moto, like it wasn't bad.
No, I don't think the endurance was that much off, and I think his pace was like 90% there. I just don't know if he'll be able to tap into that full 100% in time. I can see a guy that goes, 5.5 and 4.4, and then is just needs a miracle to come in on that third round. But that's the thing, that could happen. That with the way the points are, that could happen. But I think when you think about Tomac, especially in an outdoor setting, which, like I said, some of these tracks, mainly I would say Texas, but I mean the drag strip has got a lot of it in there too. And round one, very, very moto, centered in some areas, a little more high speed, a little more, the bike moving around a little bit more, body control required. But you think about on those style of tracks, what makes Eli Tomac shine? Well, it's his ability to bulldog the motorcycle, right? He's not like a Jet. He can be, especially indoors, but he's not necessarily like a Jet to where he looks effortless, right? He's a guy that is bold. He's been, advertised a lot as the last American bulldog rider, right? Someone who looks like he is wrestling the bike and telling it what to do and putting it there and making it work, right? So I think if he's coming in a little bit less, maybe a little bit more fresh initially, but doesn't have the same endurance, I think that trick in his bag may not be there in time for him to kind of make those late, blitz charges he loves to do, especially in outdoor settings. So that's my main reason that I like to sell. Webb is a really, really good starter most of the time, and he's got that dog in him. So I would just put him slightly over Tomac on my, who I think will finish better or has a better chance of being in the top three. And more importantly, like Karsten, you just doubted him. So, I mean, that told me all I need to know. He's going to do it now. So,
I mean, you might as well become a buy for you at this point,
Yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'll flip my – no kidding. But so, yeah. All right. Well, let's move into – this is going to – I really hope we get some parity here in the steel category. So who's got some lower or more middle class, expectations that we believe could it doesn't have to be for a win. It could be a guy that we think is on the outside in the LCQs looking in. It could be a guy that maybe should be in this championship talk for this 3-round series, or it could be a guy that's just like, hey, we think he could be a top 5 guy. He could get a moto podium, whatever you think. So Alec, I'll start with you again, and give me your steal, brother.
Man, I'm really thinking of a guy who has showed his grit in the outdoor season. He really worked hard, and I mean, he's the American hero. I'm going AP. I know it might be an underrated steal, but man, I mean, he's looked great. I think KTM's really got something going on with this bike. I think both of them like it, and same with Chase. I mean, it felt like the last few rounds, Chase was just kind of towing AP behind him, or AP was towing Chase, and then Chase caught him. But I just like what I see from AP. I think the confidence is there. He knows he's a top 3 in championship points guy. He's podiumed many times. He also strikes me as a guy who's just wants to get on the podium and will do anything to get on the podium to celebrate and chug a beer on the side.
Yes. I mean, he chugged a beer on the side of the track. Didn't even wait for the podium.
That's what I meant. On the side of the track.
I mean, there was nothing more American to me than seeing his own mechanic with a pit board out that said free beer at finish, or just beer at finish on his last lap for motivation to finish. And then, of course, we get it on camera of him pulling off, and a fan or somebody pours a beer through his helmet. Yeah. Like I almost cried watching that, because I realized we got our country back, and it was just magical. So I 100% agree.
I like him as a steal. He's kind of I mean, he wasn't this year, but had we had a healthy Tomac, maybe a healthy Coupe, he might have been that sleeper pick. Sneak in there, here, podium there. Steady top 5 guy. Now these guys are back. They're not back 100%. AP's been racing Supercross. I mean, he raced outdoor season. I mean, he's got a lot of starts under his belt, and that does a lot for these guys. I mean, building this confidence, and the more
And
gate
his
drops
starts
you
have been
do,
great.
it's
His
right.
starts have
Oh
been great
man,
too.
he's
He
been
fixed that.
yeah. So I mean, get out the gate. I think he'll be pretty solid. So I look forward to seeing him. Yeah.
I 100% agree. Yep.
like
Karsten,
that
what
pick.
you got?
So I had that pick. I switched the pick. Okay. Kohl started talking at the beginning, reminded me about the 20-minute motos. And I was like, oh, I know who I want. I know exactly who I want. Justin Cooper. Okay.
Oh,
right.
okay.
All right.
If the starts are dialed
Yep.
and he can get out there, I think 20 minutes is enough time potentially for him to be able to fend off some of these guys. When you're sitting in a 30-minute moto and you're at that 18-minute mark, Chase is barreling down on you, and you're sitting there thinking, I got to do this for 12 more minutes. Absolutely not. There's no way. But if you're thinking 2 more minutes, we could pull something out.
Yeah.
I think we can make something work here. I think we can do that.
Yeah.
And, we've seen him get to that, mid to late teen minute marks, leading a race. And so I think he might be able to do it. I don't know if he's winning the championship. I don't know about all that, but I think that he might be able to get at least one moto win.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say like a podium or two. Okay.
I think he can get a moto win, dude.
Look, he's contract year. I mean, he's got to do something.
Yeah. The conditions, if the conditions are right, he can get a good start. He gets, obviously he qualifies high. Like he's usually always in the top 3 qualifying. He's got a lot of top, qualifying first. He did that a few times.
Yep.
So if he can qualify well, get a good gate pick, bike setup's right. They've got 3 bikes out there being able to test things on. So yeah, I think that's my steal.
And when you factor in, his ability to ride defensively really well, we saw what he did with Chase. And was it round 2 or round 4? I forget when he was leading and Chase was behind him about to try to make a pass and couldn't get, was close and close and close. And then Chase finally got desperate enough to try an outside line where he was trying to land on the berm, and he washed trying to do that because he got impatient.
I think that was around after Hangtown.
Yeah.
I remember him coming off that crazy ride, and then he had that same thing you talked about where he tried to rush up to the front really quick, and then it was that inside right before was it the finish? It was like a weird uphill on the inside.
Like uphill left and then right into a right and then near the finish. And there was an outside, like you had to jump inside. It was almost like doing a slide job at IndyCar or NASCAR, to where you're diving down the inside, but and you're just gambling on the fact that your rear wheel is gonna be in front of his back front, his front wheel, so that you then work into the outside line. But to do that, he had to jump the inside berm or the inside line into the outside berm. And the line had been reworked since it had been dozed over or whatever since the first moto where he was doing that. And I think somebody in 250s was doing that well as Hayden Deegan was doing that as well in the first moto. And this was Moto 2 or something, and they had kind of knocked it down. So when he's going in there at a 45-degree angle, going at least 30 mile an hour, and was trying to play on that berm, and it went out from under him. And that's just an example of Justin Cooper just beautifully placing his motorcycle and riding really, really well defensively, and forcing someone to try something that is a 50-50, kind of a Hail Mary to make the move.
But it kind of reminds me of the Deegan Vial situation where Vial forgot to cover the inside line. Had it worked in Chase's favor, it would have been the best pass of the year. So I think he's still a great defensive rider. I think Hunter Lawrence is a great defensive rider. We saw that with
he's stealing my thunder.
Chase behind him. So you could go anywhere at this pick. Got me rethinking my AP pick, but
no, it's a good pick. It's a good pick for me. for pretty much all the exact reasons that Karsten just talked about. My steal is Hunter Lawrence in this category, not necessarily just for a moto win, but for being a contender. So I think most people have them on their list as like being a top 5 guy, and maybe getting a couple podiums, being that third guy on the podium, or just winding up at the end of this thing one way or another, maybe in the top 4, right? And for me, I think he could be in that top 3 every single race, and I think he will be a contender come Vegas, for the same reasons that Karsten mentioned, but to a different degree, in the fact that, okay, we want to talk about how this series worked out. Okay, let's think back to last year. Were these tracks the most easy to pass on? No, they weren't. And they were better than the hybrid tracks we saw in Monster Cup for so many years, but still hard to pass on. Not impossible. We saw a good amount of it, but we saw just the fact that guys that got a good start, more often than not, would have a much easier time defending and holding on for longer periods of time, especially with 20-minute motos, than they would be able to in a Supercross. You think about like a Vince Freeze, who, first of all, sucks at everything, but more importantly, is great at ripping starts. And then just being an absolute tank that just, cross jumps and knocks people over in Supercross. I'm so glad I don't have to consider Vince Freeze. I didn't read Vince Freeze on the 450 entry list. Thank God. But for the fact of, this would be perfect for him. Rip a start. It's a lot easier to defend. It's harder for people to pass around you. You can, if you're a really good defensive rider, then it's a lot easier for you to hold on, and you don't have to hold on as long as you would on a high-speed outdoors track. So for all that reasons, plus the fact that Hunter rips amazing starts, and he's got more time under that new 2025 Honda than Jet. I think he is 99% or maybe 95% as good of a defensive rider as Jet. Because the only thing that Jet has that he doesn't is the fact that Jet can be so good at not letting you even be able to get to a point where you can throw a wheel on him, because he can just maintain a 3-second gap until, the rapture comes. So for that reason, I think Hunter is basically Justin Cooper's steal value, but times 2, because you're looking at a guy that I think a lot of people have written off as maybe finishing 4th, maybe 3rd in this championship. I think he could be top 2 for all the reasons that I just listed. And yeah, I would say I want to throw in one more, and this is just, I'll just throw this out there as a steal. It's not going to be my pick. I just want to see if y'all agree. The boy El Hombre, with the success we've seen with him in the MX, with him kind of getting in the top 3 every now and then, do we think that he could be a steal here? Do we see him maybe getting a podium or trying to work his way in? I mean, what are our thoughts here? Are we selling, or is he a steal here? Because he's not a buy. He's not a buy. But is he a steal is the question, or are we just straight selling? I'm 50-50 on.
I don't know. I think the kid changed him. Yeah. He's a dad now.
Oh, yeah.
Risk-taking is not the same that we've been accustomed to.
The willingness to street fight is off the table, is what you're saying?
A little bit, and we had the whole, what was it, year before last, when he was like on probation or something, with the run-ins with Barsha.
And Mookie, yeah.
So we had that, he was kind of like, okay, I got to really calm down.
Wait. The dude has been straight up bullying the Lawrences, though, and he took it public on Instagram too. Mind you, the dude literally let Sexton through at the 3rd round just so he could run Jet wide, and lost 2 spots just so we could say screw Jet.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
I mean, he picked a fight with not just one but both Lawrence brothers, and then said, if doing this makes me the villain, then so be it. With the addition of like 20 expletives, but like. You get my point. I think he's still got that dog in him.
Yeah, that's valid. Still, though, I think that things are a little. I don't know. I think he's winding down a little bit. That's my opinion.
He's got that dog, but it's like a short-legged dog. You know,
Okay.
it just feels like, you know, he'll
just
always
barks a
be
lot?
jaw. Yeah, he'll always be jaw. He bites too, but I mean, he's not scared to get messy with these other guys or beef with these other guys. But I don't think if a quad line comes out and, you know, it only makes up half a second, is he gonna do it?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But he's still,
agree.
I mean, he's still jaw. Like he's a great rider. He's great on the bike, and if he's in a position to win, he's gonna do everything he can to win it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're saying high potential for drama to some degree, and somebody's getting teed up, but low potential for actual success.
Yeah, I mean, I would put him top 5, maybe
Okay.
5th.
Yeah.
And for some people, when you think about who's up here, that could make him a steal. I mean, if you were to make a top 5 right now, I would think 90% of people are saying like tied for 1 between Sexton and Jet. Hunter as maybe 3 or 4. Trade that with Tomac. That makes up your top 4. You can do that in any order you want. And then 5th, you're probably going AP, maybe Ken Roxon, maybe Cooper Webb, and then you're thinking about Anderson, right? So would him being a top 5 guy make him a steal? I think that kind of would. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. That'd be a great showing from Anderson if he gets top 5.
I think what you were talking about though a second ago with, you know, if there's a certain line where, you're having to go with like a massive quad or something, and he's just not willing to jump that, is kind of the same problem we might see with Tomac. Because I don't remember what race it was, but it was something recently. I think it was maybe last Supercross season.
It was Daytona.
Yeah, Tomac was saying he was
wasn't
like
doing the quad that Jet and Chase were doing, or Jet and
yeah, he
Kenny
was
or
like,
whoever.
they were jumping that, and he's like, I didn't want to jump that, so I didn't jump it, and so I lost.
Yep.
And it's like,
Awesome,
you know,
dub.
5 years ago, he probably would have been
that thing. He would have been.
Yeah.
2022 Tomac would have hit that thing. 2021 Tomac would have hit that thing. Like
2019 Tomac was probably quadrupling that thing.
Yeah. He probably would have said, "Hey Jet, you got a nice little quad there. Watch this quint." You know?
Yeah.
Like
so, well, and like now it's like, you know, does he need to? Same with Jason. Does he need to? Does he need to? He's thinking that he's like out there, like he's like, do I need to? Do I need to hit it? Oh, not really.
He's like, I'm resting easy on like 53 plus wins in Supercross, brother. Like I'm good.
The bag for 5th place is still massive, you know, and they get to go out and ride. Little, you know,
the dude gets to run his own program out of Colorado and have his dad train him. Doesn't have to answer to anybody, and just keeps getting 1-year deals and from one of the best bikes and teams on the entire grid.
Yeah,
the dude's resting easy. I agree.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, John Tomac's working Eli like a dog. I don't doubt it. I mean, they're an athletic family. It's not been easy on Tomac, especially coming back from the injury. And Tomac's a winner, dude. He just wants to win.
Yeah.
You know, so I think he would probably be a good steal for me too. Just like he's just a guy that like hates losing, but if it pushes him too far, he does have a limit. A lot of riders do. You don't see it as much in these young guys, like a Jet. I mean, he's pretty much one of the youngest, if not the youngest guy in the 450 class. I mean, everybody's 23, 24, you know, which is crazy to say that that's getting older. But you know,
unfortunately, like as you get older, you get smarter, you know, and so it's like, hey, I probably should not take quite as much risk on this. I could still retire now, healthy, you know, not in too much pain for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and we got so many of these guys that are 28 or older. Like let me just name off the top of my head who's older than 27 right now. Malcolm Stewart, Eli Tomac, Cooper is I think he's late 20s right now, or maybe early 30s. Not 100% sure. Barsha for sure. Jason Anderson for sure. Ken Roxon for sure. Like those are a lot of the top players in the sport, right? So it's nice because unlike I would say even as recent as a decade ago, like in the Dungey and Villapoto era, we weren't seeing a lot of guys that were able to hang that long. Like they're retiring at 25 or 26. just because the sport was that hard on them, or they were just getting that burnt out from such a long schedule. But over these last 7 to 8 years, we're seeing guys like Tomac and everyone else that is listed. They're able to hang around as the top dogs for longer, which has positives and negatives. And I think the only negative from it right now is just, I think within 2-3 years, we're going to have a heavy turnover, and, we're going to be down to Jet and Chase, and we don't know who else, but there's going to be a year or two where we lose like 7 guys that we all love and have grown up watching. So that's going to be tough. I'm going to tear up thinking about that. So we're going to keep moving on here.
Cooper Webb's 28, by the way.
Okay. So he barely makes that list. So he's got another 4 years in him at least. And you know what? He's got that dog in him. So he's going to pull a Chad Reed. He's going to be on the gate at 38. We'll be fine.
Hell yeah.
Okay. 250s. Going to do the same thing. Rinse and repeat here. Going to go down the top 20, then all the LCQ entries. So once again, starting off with the highest of 25 qualifying points, and the last position going down to 2 in descending right here. We are working with Hayden Deegan in first place, Levi Kitchen right behind him, Tom Vial in third, Joe Shimoda in fourth, and Chance Hymas in fifth, Jordan Smith sixth, Pierce Brown seventh, Jalik Swole eighth, Julian Beaumare ninth, Ryder DeFrancesco 10th. That rounds off the top 10. Going on, we got Ty Masterpool, Max Anstey, RJ Hampshire. Watch out. Daxton Bennick will not be racing, so this means somebody else is going to get bumped in. I think that just means that there won't be a guaranteed spot. I think that'll just mean 3 guys from the LCQ get in. I believe. I could be wrong. Cody Schock, 15th. Nicholas Romano, 16th. Joey Sabachi, he's also out now. I don't know what's going to happen with that. That could mean we get 4 guys in from the LCQ, or it could also mean that 21st and 22nd in the standings are locked in. I'm not 100% sure. Casey Cochran, 18th. Garrett Marchbanks, 19th. And then Nate Thrasher, 20th. And the guys for the LCQ, and if my guess is they're just going to be taking 4 of these guys instead of giving 2 more guaranteed spots. Not 100% sure, but I think that's how it's going to work. Guys sign up for the LCQ. Talon Hawkins, big notable here. Cameron McAdoo coming back, maybe. That's going to be really interesting. Jet Reynolds, that's a big roll of the dice literally every moto. He can be a top 10 guy. He could be 22nd. It is that dude just needs to stay healthy. I don't even care where he finishes. Just stay healthy, brother. He's got so much potential he hasn't got to tap into because he can't stay off the ground. Carson Mumford, Cole Thompson, Henry Millard, Mark Fennis, Robbie Wageman, and Lux Turner to round out the rest of the LCQ entries. All those guys will be battling for somewhere between 2 to 4 spots. We'll see how that works out. I think they're just going to take 4 in the LCQ and not give any other guaranteed spots. I think that's the best thing to do. I don't know. But, yeah, so that rounds us out, guys.
Chance Hymas on there.
He is 5th. He kind of fell down a little bit, was running 2nd overall in the points for the SMX playoffs before he had that injury with his ankle.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of where we sit now. So, guys, rinse and repeat, baby. We got buy, sell, steal. Karsten, how about I start with you this time and we work our way around?
Okay. So
what's your buy, baby?
I'm going a little off script here.
Okay.
I think it's easy to go in and pick Deegan here, but I'm going Levi. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Now, hear me out. All right. I'm creating narratives, right? They may be real. They might not be. Okay. But what I'm thinking is Levi is livid. Okay. Because Deegan is out here just flapping his jaws, all right, going on about how all these guys, I'm winning because they're slow.
So-and-so is cooked.
Y'all are all cooked. I'm so fast. Y'all are so not fast.
Deegan said he fades. Deegan said Levi Kitchen fades at the end of motos.
I know what to do. I just ride, 80%, he'll fade. I'm riding 80%. He's fading 100%.
Yep.
And I win. That's what he says. Yep. Levi says, I'm shaving my head.
Oh,
I'm going to beat you. Okay. That's what Levi is going to do.
So do you think the cringy cheetah, whatever that was, haircut and hair dye,
no, dude, he's channeling him down? He's channeling his inner Dennis Rodman right now. Okay.
Okay.
And he's
So you
getting
think
up
that
and
comes back?
He's
pulling
locking
the
in.
whole shot, and he's playing D. Okay.
Okay.
Whole shot and D. That's what's
Okay.
going on here. Levi's D is huge, right? And this is gonna be an incredible race. Okay. Levi's got him. Levi's got him.
Okay.
He's got
So
the
you
momentum.
think it's not even a battle? He smokes him.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Deegan's gonna get stuck in the sand. Okay. You see these tracks, they all got sand sections, pretty huge ones. Like, he's literally gonna get stuck.
Didn't get stuck in the sand at the wick.
Dude, there wasn't enough sand. This is deep. This is gonna be deep.
There wasn't enough sand.
Yeah.
Who is this, Anakin? Like, you think he hates sand that much? Like,
Dude, I'm going crazy prediction here. We are going to see footage of Deegan's back tire spinning. He's going nowhere in the sand. Okay, you watch 1 of the 3 rounds, and that's what I'm going with.
apparently, Karsten thinks we're racing a Mario Kart map. Is what's going on here.
I don't know how
Deegan's
it's
gonna
gonna happen.
accidentally put on the MX-32.
Yeah, like he's gonna have totally.
They're gonna shave all the knobbies off.
Yeah, dude, he's gonna come out there. They're gonna actually put like a
Get him a MotoGP
Supermoto.
tire.
Yeah,
They're gonna put a supermoto setup on for him, and he's gonna be slipping and sliding, just burnouts in the sand. So
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that you're saying that Levi is extra motivated because all year long Deegan has been saying that he wakes every morning and pisses excellence, and that Levi kitchen fades. So he's motivated by that. He's going to have a new Dennis Rodman style haircut that is twice as cringy. That's going to give him like superpowers, like Mario with a mushroom. And then on top of that, we're racing like the one dune sand track that we're racing in the Mario Kart 64 map that has like the little thing in the middle that is like a tornado or whatever that can suck you in, and then the worm eats you or whatever. So Deegan's gonna see that. He's gonna be too busy fighting the worm and then getting engulfed by sand while Kitchen does a smart thing, goes around the outside of the circle, makes it home to the finish safe, and that is how Kitchen gets the dub done.
Yep, exactly. Okay, that's it.
Okay. I'm glad I was able to put that into a digestible format.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, really getting it through to people so they know what we're talking about here.
Okay. No, I do think you got a fair point there. I think Levi, especially with how well he did in Supercross and how consistent he was. I think for the tracks like our opening round in Charlotte and our closer at Vegas that are going to be a little more beneficial for someone who wants to run a Supercross suspension, that I think that could play into his hands a lot. And Deegan was great in Supercross, but battled injuries, battled some craziness. I think there's going to be some first turn wrecks that Deegan can get caught up in, and Kitchen's very good at staying clean. So
and Kitchen, he really came back the second half of the moto season, and he had a couple races where he did bad. He said he was ill, right? And
the haircut was also ill. That was also
Well, I was not feeling well around the same time, and I can't confirm or deny this, but I might have had the vid, and I have to assume he might have also had the vid. And if he was feeling,
you gave it to him.
You gave it to him.
Karsten,
listen, I don't know about that.
You.
I don't know about that, but if he was feeling similar to how I was feeling,
congratulations on crowning Deegan with the 24 outdoor title from giving Kitchen COVID.
And I didn't mean it. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't think he'd get it in the DM.
I could totally like how good he did given that. Not bad. And he came back here at the end. Yeah, I think and like maybe Deegan's right. Maybe he does fade. Kind of does. 20-minute moto. A little better. We'll see.
Fair point.
You got Alec. I gotta stop yapping.
Oh,
you me both. Alec, the floor is yours, my friend.
Dude, it shouldn't be
your buy?
because I'm a little unsure. If I hate to just kind of follow the cliche, but I think I have to buy Deegan.
Yep.
He was solid. I hate his podium interviews.
I love it.
I think the attitude is good for the sport, kind of create some drama. But he just pisses me off every time I have to watch a podium with him on it. I mean, even when he didn't podium at Ironman and got 4th place, and they still brought him on the podium. Well, not at Ironman.
Well, they do that with everyone though. Like people thought that was just because he's Deegan. Like if you get a moto podium, they're still going to interview you afterwards, and sometimes they'll interview guys who's got top 5. Like they interviewed Mookie just for getting his
Yeah.
first top 5 in like literally a decade. So like,
Right.
it's not necessarily. I will
A lot
say
of times
they
will
did.
have
The
that
one
little,
that was stupid was they interviewed him for getting 4th in Supercross, and that was
Yeah.
stupid. But what I heard was they had someone down like really really bad, about as bad as Levi Kitchen after getting the vid from Karsten. It was like a red flag scenario at the end of that moto, and it was between heat races or so. Yeah, no, it wasn't for 4th in a moto. It was for getting 2nd in a heat race, and everyone was like, "What? We're interviewing 2nd for heat races now? Like just because it's Deegan?" And it was like, no, like yes, they did that, but it was because we had a dude that was borderline about to be life flighted, about to go see Jesus laying on the track. We had to do something to kill time between heat 1 and the next heat. So that was kind of the thing with that. That was the only time they've interviewed someone, especially Deegan, for like an additional slot that I kind of disagreed with. But then I was like, oh, okay, we did that to avoid having to show the red flag scenario or the red cross scenario. Okay, it kind of makes sense. But I agree, Deegan can be somewhat divisive, just to put it lightly, in some of his interviews, and has a lot of flair, has a lot of attitude. But I'm sorry, I'm stealing your thunder here. This is just something I've been that we haven't talked about that just got me going. I can see why people don't like those interviews, but anyone who says that it's not good for the sport and that he should stop them because it's not good for the sport, I think needs to get off the crack pipe, because we have been complaining since the early 2000s onward about the fact that all these guys do after they get a fantastic win, there's so much they could talk about, is talk like NASCAR drivers and thank their 15 sponsors. And then if it's Cooper Webb, maybe they thank Jesus, and then they move on about their day. That we don't get any personality. We don't really get any breakdowns. We don't get any emotion, much emotion in those interviews, because a lot of times the guys are so worried about any media backlash like what Deegan's getting right now, and potentially making any public enemies, that they don't do that. And there's so many great storylines that we have already gotten from Deegan doing this. And you think about it with Cooper Webb, right? Like, he's been in other interviews. It's mostly in press conferences, not necessarily post race, like on the podium interviews, but there's been times where like he's tried to play the mind games, and that's an element that the sport can take and run with and build rivalries, build storylines off of. And for whatever reason, everyone has started, not everyone, but a lot of people, especially those with, really, really big thumbs on Twitter, love to just bash him for some of those interviews. And I'm just getting a little sick of it, because it's like, okay, you can't be in both lanes. You can't be sitting there complaining that all the podium interviews are boring, and then you see this. So I love it just because it's giving us more to talk about. Even if I think he's getting hot-headed in some of them, like, dude, like he's doing a Cooper Webb just more often. So sorry for that 5-minute unscheduled programming. I just had to get that out of my system, because I've seen too many people on Twitter that get paid to talk about moto be like, oh my gosh, this interview. I'm just getting sick of it. Like, we're Americans, dude. We invented talking crap to people. Like, this is our thing. Our country was founded on pouring tea in a harbor. Okay, so why are we scared about Deegan hurting feelings on a podium? I'm done. I promise.
No,
okay, please continue.
It's totally good for the sport. No, he's just not my favorite rider. I don't like him and his mom trying to get some pictures wherever they'll post them on the podium. I think the family's great. The family dynamic, they're super, super tight. I don't know. It's not about the podium. The kid's a dog on a bike. I mean, he's just a beast. And as much as I don't like him, you can't not like him. His riding style, he's fiery. He's got a lot of attitude, not even on just the podium, but on the bike. I mean, he showed that he can, if he does crack under a little Tom Vial pressure, or he can still get up and chase him back down and win these motos. Now, he could still totally have a bike issue like he did his freshman year, and at Redbud, and throw it off the side of the track and stomp on it and pout and him a moto. But at the same time, I think he's just pretty solid right now. The Star Yamaha bike looks great. I think he's just solid. So he's my buy, which he's probably a lot of other people's buy too, but I mean, it's hard not to pick him.
No, and I 100% agree. I think he's he's kind of like the must buy as far as like if you're looking at this top 5, he has the least amount of variables with him compared to the others. Like the less doors have to be open for him to just go win this thing. And to your point of just the fact that, because of the way he shows his personality, you end up just not liking him. That's great, because that's great for the sport too. The more people that hate you, great. I was drawn to the sport when I was 10 years old. Half the reason was because I love James Stewart. The other half was I hated Chad Reed's guts. So I love that we have more personalities, with the exception of Vince Freeze, because he's terrible at everything. But that cause more divisiveness and cause more rivalries, cause more, people to like them, want to hold their banner, and more people that want to burn, if he had a flag with his face on it, they want to burn it. Like, that is how you get a sport to mean more. So that's why I love it. So if the podium interviews make you not like him, great. But just don't go out. Just say that you don't like him. Don't say, well, I hope that with these podium interviews, like no one else replicates them. That's where I draw the line. It's like, if you don't like it, great. If you don't like him, like, that's fantastic for the sport. We need more people to hate more people. Hate breeds character, right? Hate is, I'm kidding here, but we need more spice.
You got it.
Yes, we need more hate. Less goody two-shoe Captain America fathers in here like Tomac. We need some street fights out here.
I think it's good.
I want NASCAR fights in the pits. Okay, I want that going on. I want someone to come out and say, "I'll see you in the howler." Okay, we need more of that in the sport. That's one thing NASCAR does great. Like, that's probably the only thing that NASCAR does consistently great. Like, sometimes the highlights of the race are just who fought who in the pit lane and who owes someone a beer and stuff like that. We need more of that, baby. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm
just
driving
the helmet
off.
The helmet off, like under the helmet, behind the goggles. A little.
Well, I mean,
just personality too.
One of my favorite moments of the year was just the ultimate showing of chaos when AP got his win in San Diego. The 5-second video of AP flapping his arms and doing some crazy dance while Anderson and Jett are locked in helmets screaming at each other in the background. I want that framed, because that is what we need. We need that, baby. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna get back on Earth. I've derailed this, and we're gonna bring it back. Promise. This is what happens when I got a quarterback. This is why I usually leave it to Karsten, because I'm bad at it. But going back to my buy, I would say Deegan is someone else who I would kind of default to here. I would also say, with just how good his starts have been, you've got to factor in Vial as well. Also, another great defensive rider. Not as of late, but just throughout all of Supercross, he was really, really good at that. And in the early part of motocross, he was good at that as well. For whatever reason, he was having some problems staying on the bike outdoors, which is kind of uncharacteristic of him with the limited sample size that we've seen with him over the States, especially outdoors. But yeah, I expect him to kind of rebound a little bit, but just ride more like himself. And I think he's going to get good starts, which is going to be so key in this series, with just the little bit of history we have of these hybrid tracks being a little bit more difficult to pass in. I think he's going to be up there. I think he could contend, or at least be in a spot to where if one or two things go his way in the third round when it's triple points, he's there. That's kind of how Deegan won it going into the last round, right? Like, Hunter Lawrence gets an injury, and Jordan Smith was in play for a little bit along with Joe Shimoda, and Deegan was right place, right time, executed. That could be a scenario where Vial, comes away with it. So that's someone else that I would buy into. Now let's go. Let's get negative here, baby. What's our sells, Karsten? What we got here?
Yeah, I'm selling Deegan.
Oh my god!
Not a bad
pick. Kidding me?
Not a bad sell.
Yeah, I'm huge fan. I love what he's doing. I think it's all great. But I think this is Levi's, comeback era, as they say, as the gals are saying these days. This is his comeback era. This is his sand era. This is not Deegan's sand era.
Okay.
He's going to get stuck in it. And yeah, that's that.
Levi has spent a ton of time in Florida though with Chase, so
a lot of sand in Florida.
Familiar with the sand.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the
I'm
humidity.
saying. And Levi, you know, he's got this new fishing boat, and he's trying to really get it set up right. And you know, maybe he can get himself some new power poles or something if
With
he
the Winnigs.
if he can win this.
Hell
You
yeah.
know, I doubt he's got a Mercury 400R on the back of that fishing boat, but by the end of this, hey,
He might.
maybe he will, you know. And it's in his shopping cart right now. He's like getting ready to buy it, but he's like, I gotta be digging first.
So what I'm hearing is the bonus check is depleted as soon as it cashes in if he wins the sucker. Like it's gone.
A lot of it. I mean, I don't know exactly what the check is. Is it $1 million for no, it's not $1 million for
500K for 250.
500K. Okay, he's got to pay his mechanic a little bit of that.
Yep. About 10%, give or take.
He's got to pay some taxes, I'm sure.
It's like another 20%. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gone, brother. I think it's gone.
Yeah. So
no shot.
Yeah, it's gone, and that's fine. That's okay.
I think for anybody on this top 5 list of the current standings, other than Tom Vial, that check is gone as soon as it hits the books. Like,
yeah,
Deegan bought an Audi R8 with his bonus for winning MX. It's gone.
For Deegan, because he's already like he kind of got his little fill there going to bag, so he kind of doesn't need this. And dude, that might be a little bit of an X factor going into this. Is Deegan doesn't need it, you know, and so he can be a little more loose. Like Levi's thinking about all these boat parts he just ordered, and he's like, "Shit, dude, I really need this money right now."
So we're saying the homie's in debt. We're saying he didn't wait.
Okay.
He pulled an MJ
strategy, honestly, but you know, I'm sticking with it. I'm definitely less confident now than I was before, but yeah.
Nah, stick to your guns, bro.
You got to stick to it.
He's got it.
Okay. All right. I like it. I like it though. Alec, who you selling on?
Dude, I'm selling on Tom Vial.
Okay. That's not a bad. I don't think that's a bad pick at all. That was my other.
Dude, he did great in Supercross. He was there where he needed to be. Yep. Motocross, he shined some. He brought some things to light. Some problems, some good, some bad. But for me, it was at Ironman when he was battling Deegan. I think this was at Ironman, but battling Deegan and didn't battle him for about 20 minutes, and then faded back to 5th place. You know, he was honest on the podium, and he just said, "Look, I didn't have it. I couldn't keep going," and that was with 10 minutes left in the moto. I mean, now I know these are significantly shorter, and if he gets himself in a good spot, you know, that 20 might be all he needs. So, for me, just based on the last race I saw, I gotta sell him, dude. I think he's gonna do okay. I don't think he's gonna do as good as I hope, or as a lot of people expect, and that's the reason I'm putting him up for sale, putting him in the yard for the yard sale.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, even though both of those completely take away from what I've stated earlier and completely demolish, I mean, pretty much y'all sales has just been like, hey, what Kohl just said was terrible. Let me tell you why. But they're great points.
That's not Kohl.
I mean, there's so many of these picks to where you can play devil's advocate or you can go for it. You know,
that's how I was so unsure. Like he could completely come out and just
you can't sell something if somebody's not willing to buy it. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
There you go.
So for me, my sell, just to be different here, and also because I think this will be might be the only thing I've said so far that will, I think, be universally agree with, is Joe Shimoda. I'm selling Joe because we talked about the fact that he's kind of coming off another injury. He went down hard, like 5-6 weeks ago. Was it a collarbone? Right. He's supposed to be back, but he can't have more than a week on the bike. There's no way with how hard that was. But also the fact that even if and when he gets 100% healthy, like, yes, you can you have a little bit of time to race your way into shape here, right? Because the points double. So even say he's back to himself, his regular self from this particular year, round 2, and then he just comes out, gets the top 5, keeps himself in play in round 1. I just don't think he can contend for finishing in the top 3. I just don't. Aside from some kind of turn 1 pile up happening in round 3, I don't think he's there, because in this series, because of the way these hybrid tracks typically play out, you've got to have great starts and you've got to have great endurance, right? I think he can cover the endurance part. This whole year, correct me if I'm wrong, he has not figured out starts. And more importantly, if the few times he has, it's been too late to matter. And really, just in general, his overall performance is the typical Joe thing. Even before the SMX playoffs, it's all right. We're gonna sandbag until I'm completely out of contention for the motocross championship and the Supercross championship, but especially the motocross championship. And then we're gonna come out. We're gonna get some freaking overalls at the end of the year, the last 2 rounds or something like that, so that when we get to January, he's being talked about as, hey, Joe Shimoda looked great when we last saw him. Could be a guy that wins it. And then he just puts it on a repeat of, we're going to get bad starts. We're going to get bad early results, and make sure we do everything we can to make sure we're not a factor. And then once we're not a factor, we're going to be great. And I think this is, if anything, this series does play the best to that, because he can literally, if he just keeps himself top 5s, he could be in play for the last round. But I just don't think his starts are going to be there, regardless of how healthy he is or how healthy he is by the last round to put himself in contention for even finishing in the top 3. I don't think he's got the starts figured out. I still don't think he's comfortable enough on that bike. And I especially with the fact that he's in a hybrid, setups are such a big deal at these tracks, and really knowing not just being comfortable on your bike in SX or MX going in, but being comfortable enough and having enough experience and making the right adjustments to where all of a sudden you come off the track at a place like Texas Motor Speedway, or what Chicagoland did last year, to where people are going, I don't know what the heck to do to my setup. I just know it's wrong. And someone like a Jet figures it out, and someone like, Chase doesn't. That can make or break it. I think he's going to have setup issues as well. So for all those reasons, Shimoda's my sell. So
completely agree.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
All right, I did it. We got one. We got one, baby. Did it. Okay, so moving forward, let's finish with our steals. Okay, Karsten, the floor is yours.
I think RJ is a good one here. I think that
I should have gone first.
I think that he's not being talked about a lot, because obviously he missed pretty much all of motocross. We'll say he was there for the last couple races, but I think RJ could totally come out and do really well. I don't know. I'm not going to say, because he's pretty far down in the points, isn't he? He's like outside of the top 10.
I think he's 16th.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the way the points work, I guess it's possible if he did well in the last couple, like he's definitely in contention.
He's 13th. Yeah, he's 13th.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say he's totally outside of contention. So yeah, I think he's somebody that could be top 3 and make a real comeback. Like it wouldn't seem like a comeback, because he's fast. He's a fast guy. He won
SX champ this year.
Yeah, he won Supercross. But if you looked at it from like, okay, he's going to go from being 13th and get all the way up to 3rd, like that would seem kind of preposterous. But with the way the points are set up, I don't think that's outside the possibility. So yeah, RJ, like that.
Now I 100% agree for 2 reasons. One, because RJ has got that dog in him. Okay, but second point, he is fast enough, but also crazy enough to be the perfect guy to challenge Deegan. If Deegan truly is the guy that we think he is at the top, all the other guys we just listed, like the top 5, okay, aside from Deegan, Kitchen, Vial, Shimoda, and Hymas, do any of those guys give a Cooper Webb, like the dog is in them, like it's going to show up in the X-rays as positive identification of a Rottweiler is within you? Okay, no, nobody else here got that dog in him. Maybe Hymas on a given day. Nobody else here truly has that dog in him. right? No one else has that crazy look in their eyes of just like something's about to go down for good or for bad, right? Like whether or not I'm in the stands saying hi to my mom because that's how far my bike flew after I missed that jump, or whether or not I'm crossing the finish line first, something's about to go down. The only two guys I think in this class that have that particular breed of dog inside of them is Deegan and RJ. Because, as we always say, RJ is going to RJ, okay? For better or for worse, he's the only guy that can have a look in his eyes as crazy as Vince Freeze, but actually has talent, okay? So, for that reason,
Vince Freeze slander is real.
Look, if you saw what Vince Freeze did to my boy Mookie and Ken Roxon,
okay, no,
and then Dino, all in the first race of this season, you would understand. Okay,
Christian Craig,
not to mention his reputation of his whole career. Okay, we look at that; it's a whole different deal. Can he look for whatever reason he finds his sliver of talent in World Supercross? Don't know where he gets it from, but like that's the one spot he can shine. So whatever, go have your little career over there racing in freaking Abu Dhabi or whatever. But over here, you have no talent. All you do is cross jump and piss me off. So yeah, Vince Freeze slander will always be here. Okay.
Yeah, he's definitely good. Kohl's like, yeah, it's an alternate league.
Who else private Instagram account? Name one. Can't.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, sorry, Alec. Please continue. I'm so sorry.
I'm stealing Chance Hymas.
Okay.
I think seeing him, I forget what race it was that he went downhill, OTB, burned by his header. But dude, that looked like Jet Lawrence out there. It was jumping super deep in the downhills, landing in the braking bumps. It was like watching Jet in some fly gear. It was like that was something I haven't seen since Jet. Hunter a little bit, and Chase is kind of getting there, but that was like that. He looked like a spitting image of Jet. And if he can, had he not crashed, I think he would have probably been my buy. Had he stayed up, carried the momentum, finished out solid through the year, he'd probably be my buy. But just because of that crash, kind of tore him up a little bit, maybe slowed the momentum. But if he can tap into that, man, I think he could be podium. I mean, he could even win the whole thing if he can show that for 3 weeks. I mean, and do that for 20 minutes for 3 weeks. I think, Chance Hymas could walk away with that purple number plate and the lime yellow number.
Yeah,
I agree. And
that crash was bad. His bike was on him for like way too long.
Dude, I thought he was dead. They announced his name, and Weege didn't say anything. They just oh no, he's down hard, and then just cut to later, somewhere else on the track, and they're just
yeah. And there was a lot of controversy on the fact that the med team even let him continue to race after that, because he eventually got back on the bike and ran some more laps or whatever. But it was evident the dude got knocked out because we saw the burns. Right, that bike was sitting on him, and that exhaust was burning the crap out of him, but he wasn't moving. So it was evident that he was knocked out, but they didn't force him off the bike.
Right. Well, that only takes a split second too, though. I've got scars up and down my legs and none of my arms from burns. But you touch the header for a split second, especially on a factory 250 bike in a pro national. That thing is probably close to melting into pieces. So it might have just landed, touched his arm, and skipped off, and that's going to cook. So, I mean,
I don't know. The way it was sitting on him, it looked like it was sitting there cooking him for at least 3, 4, 5 seconds. And
I saw his goggles right here on the side of his head. His goggles melted, and they popped off his face, and it was on his helmet after it slid. Yeah. It slid up his arm and then onto the side of his head.
Well, that was gnarly. He would have even if he wouldn't if he could have gotten up immediately, he needed to push against it to get the bike off of him. Yeah. So it's it's even
it was gnarly.
Bad. The only other time this season that I've wondered if someone died was when Austin Faulkner, when Karsten and I saw that in real time, especially from our view.
Dude, I was there too. We're probably a section away from each other.
That's funny.
Oof.
Yeah, he like slid right at our feet at the end of that rhythm, right by the 90-degree bull turn. And it was just that was gnarly.
and just the fact, like all the TV angles, in my opinion, do not do justice with how high he got with like because that dude was like level with second deck. In my opinion, when I saw it, and he took off from the opposite, what would have been the 30 on that football field, and landed pretty much like at the opposite 30 or 20, and then skidded until he hit the corner. Yeah. So he literally, I mean, in the NFL, that's effectively called a punt, and that's what happened to him. He got punted off the bike and landed there motionless. And I was like, that's the only. I've been to football games where all kinds of crazy stuff happen. People get, put in the paddy wagon, put in the ambulance and carted off because they broke their leg or whatever. I've never played or attended a sporting event where I ever had the subconscious thought of, did I just witness someone die? And that was the only time.
And that dude walked off. He walked off the track.
Walked off.
It was probably ill-advised and not the right move.
Yeah.
Those might be the two worst crashes from this year. Like as far as just visible pain.
Yes.
It's gotta be those two. At least with Austin's, it's like maybe you get knocked out and you end up feeling nothing for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't know. Bad. So
well, and the crazy thing about the Austin thing was pretty much after lap 1, and this is part of the reason that happened, was after lap 1, he was riding with a contact just bouncing around in his goggles because it fell out. He had never had that happen before. So like his left eye or his right eye, one of the two, he's riding, fending off Deegan, who stayed consistently a second and a half to 2 seconds behind him, just pushing him the whole moto until that mistake happened with like a minute to go or 2 laps to go, whatever. And the whole time he's doing these jumps and going through the whoops, he's got a freaking annoying little clear piece of plastic just bouncing around his eyelid inside the goggle. Like I can't imagine.
He probably couldn't get his distance right.
Yeah, exactly.
It was probably off too, and he missed it by just
I mean, if it was a bald tire, he probably would have cleared it. He just barely missed it, and that was all it took. They pitched him OTB and yard sale.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for my steal, I would say I think Jalek Swoll's getting another podium. That's my steal. So not someone that's going to contend to finish top 3, but I think Jalek Swoll's been stealing podiums this whole year, getting him out of nowhere. He's the first guy to get Triumph their maiden podium in both SX and NMX. I think he delivers and gets an overall podium. I think it could be in a crazy way where he goes like 4-4 for third, something like that. Some kind of chaos happens in one of these rounds and he just keeps riding consistent like he has been. But also he's a guy that's just such a freak athlete and does have these crazy random, top end speed ability in these races that he could also just do it off of just position, just go 3-3 for it. He's got that in him. I don't know if he has that dog in him, but he's got that pace in him and he's got that ability in him. I think when he starts running up front more often next year, as he gets more comfortable with this new bike, we'll find out that he does have that dog in him. But right now, I think the boy's got a podium in him. So that closes out our buy, sell, steal for the whole field, and that kind of closes out kind of our preview for the whole field. Let's close out these last 5-10 minutes with some little discussion questions here, particularly looking at the tracks. So for those of y'all that need to take a look, just go freaking Google, hey, SMX tracks 2024. Okay. We're looking at round 1 at Charlotte at the drag strip, round 2 at Texas Motor Speedway. And then we're looking at the strip at Las Vegas. All of these, I think they somehow even got better than last year. I think Chicagoland was the most versatile, might have been the best track last year. I don't know. I think best as far as entertainment value was the Coliseum, because it was so cool to watch them jump through the arches. That was freaking amazing. It was like, and the way they had them going down that on the way down, like it was a ski slope, and then a split lane choice was really, really cool. But I think in regards to just different, having variations of obstacles and potential raceability, I think these hit out of the park. But let's break these down here, and let's just talk about, hey, whoever wants to go first, just not me. between Charlotte, Texas Motor Speedway, and Vegas, what do we like the best in regards to just an equal amount in the decision of entertainment value, like what has the coolest obstacles here, and also what do we think is going to provide the best racing here between these three? So who wants to take this one first?
Karsten, you got it.
Yeah, I really like the split lane at the end after the finish line jump on Texas Motor Speedway. I think that split lane, and then you come into that kind of sweeping 90-degree or 180-degree corner. I like that a lot. I think that might offer, hopefully that creates a two-line situation, and we could have some interesting passing opportunities in there. And the way that that's going to kind of go, and people are going to be able to swap over inside to outside going into those next couple turns might be interesting.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to it. My favorite.
Thinking the same thing.
Looking section. But who knows? Like something might develop and it ends up sucking. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, I also think that's going to be. I think from the standpoint of what's going to throw the most variability here. I think what was great. We already talked about this, but just reiterating, like what was great about Chicagoland last year was it just put everyone at like a head scratcher in regards to what setup they wanted to run. And it forced a lot of guys to run an MX suspension setup when they had been training on, Supercross suspension. I think depending on the type of dirt that they run with, which usually it's going to be more hard pack coming out of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But, they got sand in here, so we could see some variation. But depending on what type of dirt we get, we could see a little bit more of like a Chicagoland style hybrid track here that could be beneficial for some of these guys to run motocross suspension, especially like when you're talking about that split lane, Karsten, when you're talking about those kind of like sweeping corners beforehand. That's a little more high speed cornering to where a motocross suspension, I think, would play to your advantage here. When you're taking into the fact that none of these tracks are going to have any true Supercross whips on them, I think that I think we could still run into the same setup variable that's going to hopefully put some guys in a little bit of. I mean, we want some of these guys to get uncomfortable, right? That creates some drama, right? That creates some variability, and I think that track in particular is going to cause the most amount of that. But Alec, I mean, what are your thoughts? You say you like Texas as well, but when you look at other features such as the split start at the drag strip, the drag strip having a whole section that goes off to the side and then comes back. You look at Vegas, you got a lot of cool stuff over there. You got a really, really big sand section in Vegas as well, and then another split start. I mean, so what are you liking the most here?
Man, I like all of them a ton. I think the only reason I put Vegas above is just because it's Vegas. We haven't seen a dirt bike race in Vegas since pre-COVID before they moved to Salt Lake, for the last round of Supercross. So, I think that's got to be my favorite one just because it's Vegas.
Well, and it's going to be a night race too, right? So the only thing that I hate about Texas Motor Speedway is it's going to be daytime. It's going to be 2 p.m., which the one thing that everyone said about going to Charlotte last year, it was North Carolina. I forget. Was it still the same drag strip as it was this year? Was it that same? I think it was. I think it was. But the one thing everyone said last year is, look, if you're doing playoffs and if you're trying to advertise like the entertainment value here, you're trying to get more people to go, look, hey, this is a spectacle. You got to do a night race, dude. You got to do a night race. Everything looks better at night when it comes to motorsports. You can't name one motorsport, or maybe you can, but to me, you can't name one single motorsport that doesn't look better at night. Like if I'm watching the Daytona 500 and 70% of it isn't going to be fading into the night, vibes off. If I like when F1 finishes in Abu Dhabi and that sucker is finishing at night and like the back half of that's at night, the car liveries look brighter, all the good stuff. Vibes are up, baby. Okay. When IndyCar races at night on an oval or on a road course, it's freaking awesome. And then in Supercross, whenever, like, most of them are going to be indoors and they're going to be during nighttime. And if they're outdoors, it's still stadium lights or whatever. Or even if they're indoor, like, you know, I would just say in Supercross, the few times we go in an outdoor setting and we're racing daytime, vibes are off. Okay. So especially like for the guys that are there in person, and it just looks so much cooler to just see someone like with a complete Black Knight backdrop flying in the air. It just really kind of helps you take in the spectacle. So, yeah, not only are me and Karsten upset that it's a daytime race for Texas Motor Speedway because we're going to fry and we're going to have to be wearing long sleeves out there, especially me, because your boy is, pretty fair skin, burns easily. There were days that I used to have a tan when I played football, and more importantly, pre-engineering school, and engineering school just took all of it out. So thank you, TAMU Industrial Engineering, for getting rid of any sunshine I had for 4 years. But anywho, yeah, that's the only letdown for me for Texas Motor Speedway. I think Texas Motor Speedway would be my true number one if it was a night race, because the spectacle will kind of just be notched down just a little bit.
Yeah, we're going to start drinking early, brother.
Yeah, maybe if with enough of that influence, then we can think it's night.
Yeah. We'll get there. Hey, you know what? Nothing wrong with an early bedtime. Okay. Get up the next day. Maybe we can get a little church session.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Ain't the worst thing.
Yeah.
I think it'll be all right.
Okay. Closing question here, guys. We've been kind of itching at this a little bit, but setups. They were in regards to different suspensions they can run, going with a more motocross bike versus a supercross bike. Last year, them having kind of to switch between the two depending on the track. Do we think that the riders will have that same level of variability as they did the previous year? Or do we think that they're going to be more dialed in? You think they're going to know what changes to make? Are we going to see everyone running the same kind of suspension? Like, we had some guys like at Chicagoland. Hey, I ran Supercross suspension and it freaking worked for me. Like, some guys, and other guys that run motocross suspension, it works great. And then vice versa. Some guys that try one thing that's complete on the other end of the spectrum that works terrible, So do we think that we're going to kind of get that same like variability here out of these tracks? Or do we think that people, now that they've kind of done this before, they kind of know what to expect with these, that it's going to be more of everyone's going to kind of be on a more level playing field?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough to tell, right now. But the tracks, the layout looks more uniform than it did last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they've got a lot more similarities to them, I feel like. There's no, like, the Coliseum was totally different than anything else.
Yeah. That was basically just Supercross with the sand section.
Yeah. And like the sand section, but like they were also like jumping into it downhill from like going back into the stadium. Like that's
freaking awesome.
Yeah. So there was some sections there in each track that nothing else had something similar to it. And so if it was enough of a factor, you might have had to have some setup change just for something like that. But these all look pretty like uniform. Like the first part of the track, half the track is kind of super crossy, half the track looks pretty motocrossy. They've all got very similar kind of sections. It's nothing really weird about one or the other. So I think it's going to come down to, they're going to eventually come up with this is the super motocross setup, which is some combination depending on what certain guys like. And then they just adjust it from there based on the dirt at the different tracks, kind of like how they do with Supercross. This is the Supercross setup, adjust for dirt. This is the motocross setup, adjust for dirt. And
so you think that most of their setup changes will be in the variability to where they can just use clickers instead of having to go, oh crap, I need to go to the opposite of, hey, I thought it was SX, it's actually MX when I test rode it in practice. You think it's going to be more, they come in with the right idea and all of their adjustments are just clickers?
Potentially, and then maybe like tires, for the dirt, depending what's going on.
Aaron Plesser don't even know what tires he's on. So
yeah, he's like, do I have tires? Yeah. Well, then we're good.
What am I racing? Dunlops? Pirellis?
Yeah.
Like what are we on, brother? Like I don't even know. I just race, give amazing American inspired podium interviews, and drink beer at the finish line. That's what I'm here for. The people's champion.
Which is what everybody wants.
He's doing it for Dale. Okay. Let the man do what he wants. He's a national treasure. He deserves just as much security as any active or former president. Okay. He needs to be protected at all costs. Okay. We already lost Dale. If we lose him, okay, World War III is happening. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't make the rules, but please just listen to the rules I just made. Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. What do you think, Alec?
This is the guy that is riding a lot, and you're dealing. You ride pretty irregularly right now, right?
I've been off the bike a little bit. Yeah, I had to get some toe surgery done. Had some issues, but got it fixed. A little bit of time off the bike, but dude, I really think these guys, we see in battle setups on tracks they've ridden for years. I mean, I don't think there's always a question in there. I go back to what Karsten said, kind of about like, this is our super motocross setup. And then, like you said, they're within clicker range and they just adjust here and there. But like I said, man, these guys, you'll hear them all the time, especially these outdoor tracks. And man, the bike wasn't, I couldn't get the setup right. And it may be an easy cop out for them to blame it on that, but from the sound of it, I mean, these guys are always not struggling, but always trying to find a better setup. So I definitely think they're going to go in maybe having an idea. Some guys might be in a couple clicks off. Some guys might need different fork tubes. I mean, some guys might need a different length of a swing arm. I mean, it depends from guy to guy, and some guys might get lucky and bring ride what they brought and pray it was enough, and it works out. Like Jet compared to Sexton, it was. I'm sure these mechanics and these buses have got every possible part, but still, I mean, if you're off here, then these guys are pushing the limits at all times, and if they're not comfortable, you can't go fast. So
yeah, and
I
some
think
guys,
whoever gets
like
it is
Dino,
going to do good. And whoever doesn't, stop. So.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Continue.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
And some guys like Dino are going to sell the bike they raced on right after. Apparently, that's cheaper. And maybe even the van they drove it in, and then fly to the next place, go into a shop, buy a new bike, get some forks on there, and beg Pulp MX to pay their entry fees and slap a sticker on there as a sponsor, and that's how they ride from town to town, baby. And whoever their mechanic is doing it on is being paid in hope and faith for a bonus. Yeah. That we may have some redneck engineering going on here, which is always great for the sport. So that'll be interesting to see if we have any more legendary stories like that. I mean, you think about like Colt Nichols last year was privateering himself into getting a top 10 overall in the series and winning $80,000. Same with Ty Masterpool, stuff like that. We saw all kinds of crazy setups there with guys that are getting top 10s in these things, racing out of vans, and they're beating guys that have a whole hauler to themselves. Their face is on an RV that they get to sleep in that has a bed with their name on it, and they're getting beat by Colt Nichols and Ty Masterpool, who are sleeping in the back of their trucks. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any crazy underdog stories. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me once again, and I think this is an awesome preview show, one of my favorites we've ever done. And what I love about this playoff series is when we come back here next week, I think half of what we said will be true and half will be miles off. And that's the beauty of this sport, right? It's so unpredictable. So I can't wait to come back here next week after round one and break this down with you guys. And then the following week after round two, Karsten and I will be boots on the ground for that race. So we'll have some extra content to provide in regards to, well, hey, we walked the pits. We saw this. We were there. We saw this happen in front of us. If it's anything like Dallas, if something happens again, someone's going to pretty much almost die and land right in front of us once again. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's one of the things that we got to testify towards when we came last time and did a review show. So that could happen again. And then Alec is going to be at the SMX finale in Vegas What stage his liver is going to be in and everything, and how much money he's lost is going to be not factored into his post-race interview. But we're going to hear from him, boots on the ground, and going to be recapping every single one of these things. And hopefully we get a fantastic title fight. So we'll see you guys next week when we kind of break this down. We'll also be putting out some college football stuff pretty soon as well, breaking down weeks 1 and 2 or weeks 0 and 1, whatever we want to freaking call it. It's football. So tune in for that. And we'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening. Peace out.